The tongues and the eyes were removed with surgical precision. Often the body is decapitated. That means the head was cut up for our Room 10 plus 7 friends that just might stumble across this podcast today. Certain quote-unquote body parts and select organs, use your imagination people, are also missing, and common to many of these are an absence of blood. It is Friday the 15th of April, 2022. Thank God it isn't Friday the 13th, man. I'm telling you. Maybe you guys ought to switch off right now and listen to this podcast late at night by candlelight. And try doing the research at 1:30 this morning at level 7. Very disturbing, I'm telling you. Now, the more you go down this rabbit hole, the creepier it gets. To my channel subs that have been around for a while and live in the general area, let's say Ward, McHenry, Renville, and Bonneau counties, but not limited to just those 4. Go back to the early 80s. Remember the rampage of cattle mutilations occurring around the counties? Precision cattle mutilations? Theories from Bigfoot to UFOs. When the whole critter was missing, they even blamed the U.S. Air Force. Yeah, I think them helicopters that are always flying around, they think they swoop down and grab a cow because they're going to have a steak fry or something on base and they don't want to pay for it. Well, yes, as weird and bizarre as that sounds, the reason they said that is because no tracks, people. There never is tracks, in spite of people searching, professional searchers, and tracking dogs. No tracks. Okay, now, we lived back then in the early 80s in a wide spot and road off of Highway 2, Norwich, North Dakota. I think the only place you could spend money there was either at the elevator or at the post office. And right across the street were a whole smear of wingnuts living in a house, active duty Air Force personnel, and we got along great with them. They would tell us there was something very satanic going on at that Air Force base. A lot of Satanists, a lot of Satan worshipers. I think they even told me that the son of Sam, the serial killer from New York, David Berkowitz, was in the Air Force and once did a tour of duty at Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota. Now, don't quote me on that one, but I think I remember that story very succinctly. So they said, hey, these were enlisted guys. That's where you're going to get the scuttlebutt. That's where you're going to get the good info on what's really going on. And keep in mind, too, the Air Force Academy is a hotbed for Satanism and witches and warlock dens and covens. Unbelievable. All right, people. Unfortunately, the introduction of this podcast isn't about cattle. No, it ain't. The relatively few people that went missing in these national parks we talked about the other day, and their remains when they were found. Relatively few. Often their clothing was folded into neat piles. This really gets creepy. Now, while we're reminiscing and remembering things, does the name Phil Schneider ring any bells? Yeah, old Phil. I did a podcast on him. Probably was a video audio back then. The actual hands-on practical engineer, a builder of DUMS, Delta Uniform Mike Bravo Sierra, standing for Deep Underground Military Bases. You remember that one, people? Remember the horror stories about that? What he found underground? The stench, the smell, the extraterrestrial beings? Of course, I'd tell you they were extra-dimensional. The shootout with the Army security personnel? Yeah, I hope that's jogging your memory a little bit. Now, isn't it amazing how my previous audio videos are related and not random? It's like little puzzle pieces. When put together properly, with the guidance of your ever most fluid, incredibly humble messenger, a picture does develop. Are you guys starting to see it? And remember the audio video I did on Plum Island? I covered that too. And that's the one that was banned in 44 countries. I believe I got a channel strike over that goddamn thing. And went to YouTube jail for at least a week. If it's all coming back to me. It was quite a while ago. Plum Island, people. Weird shit, courtesy of your government. Now, what I want to do here is I want to introduce you to a gentleman, author, researcher named David, I'll probably blow his last name, Paulides. You got to hand it to us Dave's people. Great minds think alike. He's a very credible researcher that considers all possibilities, but only speculates on the causes of missing people in national parks. He does not really come down on a particular theory. However, at the end of this 23-minute video, he'll give you a little eye-opener there. There's only one possibility that fits all scenarios. So, we were talking about national parks, remember? And I guess it's Yosemite National Park in California that has the largest cluster, not an individual, largest cluster of missing people. Missing and seldom found. So if that is your summer vacation destination, people, I would seriously pick a new spot. Just saying, do what you want. There will be a link with David and George Noory interviewing him. It's only 23 minutes, and get this, people, 23 minutes and 33 seconds long. You gotta love that Masonic 33. It just adds to the creep factor of this whole operation, I'm telling you. So, just a couple of sound bites to whet your appetite. And 23 minutes, 33 second video. I think you guys could get through that. You should.
Read of people that have disappeared from parks, federal parks, state parks, and certain other spots with an amazing story, David. Absolutely riveting. Well, welcome to Beyond Belief.
Thanks for having me, George.
When you got into this, there must have been one or two case studies that first cropped up that got you to say, hey, there's something weird here. I'm going to study this. How'd that happen for you?
Well, originally, I got a notification from a national park ranger that he had worked at a series of national parks, and they had an unusual amount of disappearances, and the people had disappeared in unusual places that really didn't make a lot of sense to this person. And over the years, they tried to do a little research and figure out what happened, and they got stymied. And the more they looked into it, into their internal system, he got concerned that there wasn't enough being done. And eventually ended up contacting me when I was at a park doing some peripheral research. And we started to look into disappearances in the U.S. National Park system. Probably the first case that brought my interest was a case of Stacey Aros that disappeared in Yosemite.
Yeah.
A 14-year-old girl that was on a pack train ride into Sunrise Lakes, into the High Sierra area of Yosemite. Her and her dad stopped at a series of cabins. She got off her horse, freshened up, and her and a 70-year-old man named Stuart went and took a short walk off to this bluff, and she brought her camera, and they were going to just take pictures. Mm-hmm. The trail hands saw them walk over there, and she walked away from Stuart and told Stuart she was going to walk down to a lake to take some pictures. And the trail hand and Stuart saw her walk down there, and that was the last time she was ever seen. Subsequent search found the lens cap to her camera right inside the tree line of that area. But the reality is they never found a trace of her after that. I filed a series of Freedom of Information Act requests against the Park Service to get documents. Mm-hmm. And I have received documents before from the Park Service on other missing persons cases. I got a call from their attorney asking me why I wanted the case. And then they asked me what I was going to do with it. And finally, a special agent from the Park Service, a guy named Yu, told me I would never get that case. He didn't explain why, but he said, you're never going to get it.
Kind of interesting, huh, people? Yeah, I'm hoping that 2.5 minutes whets your appetite. And just one more little blurb about the 19-minute mark, I think it is. Yep, here we go. In case you guys are already saying, well, we know what the cause of those missing people is. It's serial killers going apeshit in the forests.
True is that there's a group of serial killers out there in the woods.
Correct.
To me, that is the least likely of every scenario. Not that I'm categorizing anything, but the reason being is that in these searches, they bring in professional trackers. Part of that professional tracking ability is tracking somebody through the woods. And some of the people they use are Navajo trackers, military trackers, professional private trackers in conjunction with canines.
Nothing.
They don't find tracks leaving the scene. They don't find a scent. some idea, or the idea that people promote that it's a serial killer in the woods. There's a lot of things that go with that. Mainly, if there was a serial killer in the woods, then they'd have to carry that body.
Hey, I'm going to ask you a question, people. What could possibly be worse than a goddamn serial killer going apeshit in the woods? Stay with me on this one, because you're going to find out. And spoiler alert, you want to know the answer quick and painlessly? It was in your Bible. Yep, the one laying on your dresser, desktop, living room end table. That's the one, gathering dust. No mysteries here, rightfully so did Jesus say. All that was concealed will be revealed. Man. So I hope you guys check out that 23-minute and 33-second. Hey, Dave the Mason, or Dan the Mason, if you're listening to this. 33, that ought to trigger you. Okay, I've got my shotgun loaded next to me. You bet, double-aught buck. Magnum rounds. 2 flashlights, in case one fails. Where the hell is my rape whistle? I'm creeped out, people, but still, I've got stuff to do.